How's it going, guys? And welcome back to the live coverage of BCS 24-25 World Finals with myself, Randall, aka Shizukats.
And Ian.
And we're going to be getting right into round 2 here. We do have, we have Now Times, who's going to be playing another quintessential quintuplets Nino build, like the one we saw in the previous game. But on the other side, we are going to have Nazarick. And so this is a deck that I feel like people had very mixed opinions about whether or not it was still going to be viable after the recent English restrictions. But as we have seen, it is still quite a powerful deck and has alternative tools to find ways into getting those climaxes that are so important to repeatedly play turn after turn.
Yeah, remind me again, what were the nerfs exactly for after the ban list?
So the restrictions were the 1/1 Eins that supports the 3/2.
Yeah.
The 1/0 Vampire Bride's Shaltir, which allows you to clock Vampire Brides to draw cards. And then also the 2/1 Yuri, which was the on-play, draw 2, discard 2, refund a stock. That was one of the most important cards of the deck, not only for digging for those climaxes, but also maintaining additional parts of your board so that you can keep the cards in your hand and use those for like burn effects in your late game.
Yeah, so we will probably expect to see the 1/1 Eins to give hexproof and a lot of power to the level 3 Eins.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only viable option of the three if you want to continue playing this level 3 Eins style deck.
Yeah.
We did see over on the Japan side, the 1/1 did get banned completely, and the deck just vanished off the face of the planet, basically.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's just so important to give that level 3 Eins the protection that it needs to stick around and use its combo on multiple turns, because you need to use one combo to load up those Black Goat markers and then another turn of combo in order to send them to waiting room and keep going. So let's see if we can get into our game. Looks like our players are pretty much ready to go.
It seems like they're ready to go. And we see Now Times on our left playing quintessential quintuplets. I think Now Times Callum has consistently been playing that deck. He has been playing it like for the last, I think, 3 BCS seasons already. So I think he really likes it overall. And it does look like he is playing a standby version.
Yeah, the standby Nino.
Nino.
It looks very similar to the one that we just saw. We are not running the 4/4 climax lineup like in the previous game, though. Okay, so let's talk about the plays here for Mr. Two Sides. Exactly what I thought was going to happen. We see 2 copies of this Cocutus. So this is a chaser profile, so it can run in front of opposing characters. It's 2,500 on your own turn and 4,000 power on the opponent's turn if you have another character with the proper traits on stage. And so we see 2 copies here being played in the front row, not only to body block to potentially reduce damage for potential attacks that Now Times could go for, but it's also actually really important to have 2 copies in the front row in this particular matchup, because if you only leave one Cocutus in the front row, you open up Quints to use an effect to search for that level 0 that can pop a lone character in the front row.
Oh, yeah.
So this completely avoids that sort of counterplay. This is something that we actually saw in at my regional, the Pasadena BCS regional. In the final match, we saw this exact same play of the double Cocutus in the front row in order to avoid getting countered by that level 0. So very smart heads-up play here for the matchup.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think it would have been worth it if he did not have the 2 Cocutus to do the same play?
I think without the double Cocutus, I don't think it's worth it. I think at that point, you kind of just... If they go into it, then they go into it, sort of thing. But a lot of the other level 0s in the level 0 lineup for the Nazarick deck are not particularly strong and can get run over by stuff that the Nino deck can just like put on the board. Yeah,
we see Mr. Two Side asking, just making sure that this is the correct climax for the level 3 combo, because it's an OFR version of the card.
Yeah,
he might not be too familiar with it.
Okay, so the 1/1 Nino that was brought out here on the first turn by Now Times has the effect to give all of the Ninos the choose trigger effect, where you can look at the top 2 cards of your deck, choose which one you want to trigger, but additionally has the effect where when you trigger a standby climax, you get to give 3k to one of your characters. So we actually see one of the Cocutus getting run over here.
Oh, wow. That is such a... Yeah. Can you even call it lucky if you get to see 4
If you get to see so many
top?
cards? He actually had the potential to see 5 because the level 0 Nino blue one at the top slot, it has that effect inherently as well.
Right.
So you had a chance to go through up to 5 cards to find a standby trigger. And we did just see one on the first attack, so perfect.
And he also played level 3 Climax, right? So that would make all the level 3 Ninos also standby triggers.
Mm-hmm. That's something that we saw Bran trying to do in the previous game by shuffling 2 copies back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
not finding any
not
of them.
finding them, yeah. So seeing a level 0 Ainz drop searcher here in order to search this other green level 0 Ainz, which is going to be coming into play right now. So both of these level 0 Ainz have only 500 power, so they're not great at contesting the board, but that level 0 red Nino with only 500 base power is able to be cleared off the board if Mr. Two Sides chooses to have them tie.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually I think it's actually optimal to go for the tie here. It removes a body from Now Time's board, and it removes a body from Mr. Two Sides' board, which, as we said in the previous game with Quince, removing bodies from your own board in order to prevent your opponent from getting reverse targets could be quite helpful.
Yeah, and especially with this level 0 Ainz that can also bounce itself and something else to deny all the reverse combos.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was a side attack, actually.
It was a side attack, so he ends up not getting rid of his last reverse target.
Yeah, I think this is still fine. You can use the middle green Ainz's effect. At the start of the opponent's attack phase, you can pay 1, clock yourself from the top of your deck, and return itself to hand to also return one of your other characters to hand. You could return that level 0 Ainz drop search, the red card, and itself back to the hand, and you open up the front row slots for the Cocytus to roam free and use its chaser ability to still avoid reverses.
It does make it a little bit easier for the standby deck to get some soul damage in, but I think both of them will take that trade.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the Nazarick deck is not too worried about taking early game damage anyway. I feel like the expectation with this deck is that you are going to be hitting level 2 within your first deck rotation, which turns on those Sorcerer King Ainz plays that this deck is so famous for.
Yeah. It's also one of the cards that got banned or restricted was the level 1 Vampire Bride.
Mm-hmm.
That was it a Vampire Bride or was it the other?
It's the Shaltir with the Vampire
Shaltir
Brides? Yeah.
with the Vampire Bride, yeah.
Yeah.
And that deck was basically famous for clocking itself like multiple times to accelerate the Sorcerer King Ainz.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Blood Mage kind of strategy. You hit yourself for advantage, and you get to turn that advantage into a very powerful offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But alas, we don't see that card being played in this game. And we see a bounce into a chase.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it... Yeah. The Cocytus manages to live this battle. And makes it a +3 for this turn.
Mm-hmm. And we are seeing a cancel, at least one cancel coming out here so far for Mr. Two Sides, so you don't want to take too much damage too fast.
Ooh, and Mr. Nowtimes manages to find a climax at the second double check.
Mm-hmm.
So the extra checks coming in clutch.
Yeah, and what's nice about the level 0 Nino that just got played over is that you have the on-death ability to pay to salvage. And so this can immediately pay out the climax that was just triggered. And we're going to see the anti-overlevel counter being added to hand off of that salvage. And standby to the front is the 2/2 blue Nino, which, unlike the red one that is in the back row, this 2/2 blue Nino gains constant power on both players' turns based on the number of your other characters that you have in the front row. So as long as you're able to hold the entire front row, this Nino is going to be 11,000 power at minimum. And it's just going to be a thorn in its opponent's side if they aren't able to get rid of it.
I'm actually not too familiar with this one. It checks... It has an additional check too for the standby triggers, so it sounds pretty good for, especially when the meta doesn't really come over 11k that much.
Yeah, especially if it's a format where you think that your opponents will probably be able to contest the 7k defense of the red one, but not the 11k defense of the blue one. Although we do see a good number of players running both. So, okay, going back here to the side of the Nazarick player, we do see the Shaltir level 1 combo coming out here. So this card has the ability, at the end of this card's attack, if the opposing character is either reversed or it's an empty lane, you can salvage one, and then you have the option to send it to memory and come back. This allows you to retain an advantage for your upcoming turn, since you don't have to replace those attackers on the following turn, but also opens your lanes for direct attacks, which could be a good thing if you are actually trying to get to level 2.
Yeah. But usually they come back at the end of the next, or at the start of the next turn, and then you're like, what do I do with this extra advantage? How do I convert this?
Mm-hmm.
Because you actually want to be doing like next turn. Next turn will be the Sorcerer King Ein's turn, right?
Presumably, yeah.
So what do you actually do with those bodies that are left there?
Well, considering that the 2/1 Yuri isn't really on the table anymore, and most of the time you're going to be going for just the one Sorcerer King Eins, having those two Shell Tiers come back to be your other two attacking lanes is a pretty typical play, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And on Nautzaim's side, we see already reached level 2. He has 2 red cards in his level. Does it matter for Nino at all? He does have the 2/2 blue card, but I'm not sure if it matters too much.
Yeah, I don't think anything outside of that. Maybe you would like to level yellow here if possible, as we do have 3/2 Ichika characters that are yellow in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, being the assist, is typically brought out via a standby, but the other one, the early play healer, you would want to have yellow in order to open up the opportunity to play that.
And with him being at level 2 already, we can already stand by out the 3/2s.
Mm-hmm.
Does not seem like this is a... Oh yeah, this is the top check for the level 0 Nino. I do not see any standby triggers in his deck, in his hand yet though.
You know what else I don't see in a player's hand? I don't see a gold bar. I don't see a treasure icon climax in the Nazarick player's hand, which is what I think is interesting is that we did actually see one getting mulliganed away by Nazarick, and so that's kind of like the risk you take, right? Like, do you want to keep this treasure climax in your hand so that you can eventually use it at level 2? Because you need multiple copies of it throughout the game. But in the early game, that card is just like a completely dead slot in your hand. You can't use it throughout your level 0, level 1 game. It's just kind of sitting there. But we do see in this game not having that treasure climax to use, so looks like we'll have to just pray that we get one off the top on this next turn.
Yeah, and without the level 1 Shelter, there won't be many ways to find draws, or without the 2/1 as well.
Yeah, neither of those cards. And so let's just go ahead and see. Do we have Top Check 3 Brainstorm? Yeah, we have 3 copies of this Top Check 3 Brainstorm in the deck, but none of them are here, I think. So maybe we will see on the next turn, maybe we will see the 1/1 Eins being played to back row, followed by a copy of the 1/1 Black Goats to salvage a copy of the Top Check 3 Brainstorm to try to find the climax.
That does sound possible.
Although the deck size is quite small.
Yeah.
So you do have to be conscious about the deck size. You can't try to like go into the next deck to try to find the treasure climax, because otherwise you don't have copies of Black Goats in your waiting room to marker underneath the Eins.
So the timing of Nazarick is very particular in that sense. That's why they always try to accelerate their game so that they can early play in their first deck.
Mm-hmm. So we are here now. Oh my! Did you see that?
Found it?
Just off the top. Just draw it. Just draw the out.
Yeah, that's a good play for sure.
Yeah.
Playing towards your outs. I wonder if he's still planning to clock some cards here, or if he's just going to overplay everything on his board.
I think based on the deck size, we can't see exactly how many cards in deck, but I feel like the main reason not to clock here would be if you want the treasure climax to go back in with the refresh.
Right.
So we do not see the clock here. We see the 1/1 Eins being played, which is going to turn this Black Goats event into a 1/0 event rather than a 1/1. So you get to salvage here off of the event and give a character 1,000 power. We see the Sorcerer King already in hand, so maybe we'll find something like Top Check 3 Brainstorm or a Climax Swapper, eyeing that Climax Swapper to try to make it easier to get a treasure climax on the follow-up turn.
Makes sense. You do need to chain these treasure climaxes to be able to do your strong things here.
Mm-hmm. Seeing another one.
He could have also just found more pieces for more Sorcerer King Einses, right?
Potentially, yeah. So the way the Sorcerer King Eins is going to work here, we're going to use this level 0. If you're at level 2 or higher, you can pay 1, discard 1, sacrifice the level 0 Eins itself to summon Sorcerer King Eins from your hand. And the Sorcerer King Eins does not have an on-play ability. It just has one effect, which is the Climax combo. And it's quite a doozy of a Climax combo. So the way this card works is you play the Treasure Climax, and then you get to heal 1 and choose one of 3 abilities. So, not using the heal since we didn't clock to 2-1, but the first ability that you can choose is the one we're going to see here. You get to choose up to 5 copies of this little black goats, which is a card that you can play 5 of. It's like a lore thing because there's 5 of them. Looks like we're seeing 4 here, and those all go underneath Sorcerer King Ainz as markers. And on the next turn, if you can get the Treasure Climax back again, instead of markering cards, you get to send all of the markers to memory and then destroy that many characters on your opponent's stage. Now the thing is here is that we know Now Times has the anti-overlevel counter because it was grabbed earlier in the game off of the pay to salvage when we standbyed over this 2/2 Nino. So you'll probably be wanting to side the entire board here just to avoid that.
Yeah, and then after that you can just frontal and blow up the entire board basically.
Yeah, you would be basically like blowing up the entire board into direct attacks. So obviously you want to keep your 3/2 Sorcerer King Ainz alive. The 1/1 in the back row uses its effect with the Treasure Climax as well, which gives the Ainz an additional 4,500 power, I believe. And then also it gives it 2 abilities until the end of the opponent's next turn. One of them is... Well, actually, okay, both of them are only active once it passes to the opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So one of them is the Hexproof, cannot be targeted. The other one is, during this card's battle, this character and the character across from it cannot become reversed. And so, since the Hexproof doesn't happen until it's your opponent's turn, you do need to be conscious of that anti-overlevel counter.
Yeah, and I think that second effect is always so funny because even if your opponent is weaker than you, they still can be reversed. And this is essentially just for these bomb kind of effects where if it gets reversed, you also send the higher level opponent to some other zone.
Right. The like anti-overlevel reversers or things like that, removal.
Yes, so it's pretty much impossible to remove this Ainz from board unless you have like full board wipes somehow, which are not very common at all.
Yeah. So we have 2 of these 3/2 changers on the board here for Now Times. These have been here for a bit. So this card has the effect you can pay 2 and rest her in order to deal 1 damage, which is what we're seeing here. And this is a reprint of the Ichika changer that we saw in set 2 of Quintessential Quintuplets. Exact same effect, except it's now on a Nino. And then the other effect is the change, where at the start of your attack phase, you can bounce it back to your hand, and you can... Or sorry, at the start of your climax phase, you can bounce this back to your hand, you can change into any Quintessential Quintuplets character from your hand, which will activate its on-play ability, and also allows you to get cards into play that you wouldn't normally see on the board at level 2.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cards that you wouldn't be able to see on level 2 because it's a standby deck anyway. But being able to trigger their on-play abilities is very strong for Quintessential Quintuplets. And he does need to cash them in right now anyway because his board is getting blown up next turn.
Yeah. Actually, what I think could be a potential line here... I'm trying to think. What do you think of the prospect of backlining the changers and frontlining the 2 back row and then just bouncing the changers back to your hand? I believe you can choose to change into nothing. Choose up to 1 Quintuplets character in your hand. So you could hypothetically bounce them back to your hand to save 2 cards in hand?
You could.
I don't know how viable that is necessarily. If you do leave the entire board as is and you use both of these changes, you will just be losing most of your board on the follow-up turn to the Sorcerer King Ainz.
Yeah. So it does sound like a good way to preserve some form of advantage in this situation. And I don't know how to convert it otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise the play here is just you lose your board. And maybe Now Times is just going to be conscious of that. Yeah, so we're just going to go for a couple healers here. Just try to heal down by the looks of it. Oh, do we have combo as well? Oh, we're going for the push.
Okay. I mean, I do think that Nazarick isn't generally that known for compressing too well. Especially since they have to spend their entire stock on doing their combo. They do get to get like four little black goats in this case.
Whoa.
Oh, with Earthquake.
Not actually. Just I something knocked the camera.
Yep.
Okay, so these 3/2 Ninos, the ones that we saw in the last game, they have that effect where at the end of the attack you can pay 1, discard 1, burn 3. This is going to be especially helpful for playing against Nazarick, as Nazarick is a deck that, because the combo heals, if you are able to stay at level 2, then you get to play your next Treasure Climax, heal again, and heal down at level 2, and then it just becomes an absolute nightmare. So these combos are going to be helping Now Times just hopefully hit Mr. Two Sides to level 3 here, so that we don't have that problem.
So it might be a little bit more rough.
Okay, so this one's swinging for 3. I believe this is the one that was given +1 soul by the level 0 Nino that was bounced back to hand earlier.
And interestingly, there was another opportunity to give +1 soul, but because he triggered a standby on the first Nino, but I think he decided not to give anything soul there.
Or that might have been the case. I didn't completely catch which characters were gaining soul, especially since a couple of the attacks did get cancelled this turn. But we do have Nazarick going to level 3 here. So the main goal of this turn was accomplished. Now the question is, what is Now Times going to have for follow-up? Because you just committed 2 copies of your level 3 combo that are most likely just going to be blown off the face of the planet in a sec, right?
Yeah, at the very least they're in his graveyard or in his waiting room afterwards. So he will be able to standby them back, but it's generally you want to be able to place them out on your finishing turns as well.
Yeah. First things first, though, Mr. Two Sides needs another treasure, and we just saw 2 of them go into the waiting room by cancels.
But we did see him add a climax swap, didn't we?
Yeah. So we need to see if we can draw the climax.
Yeah, we need to find 1 climax.
No climax here.
I guess that's also an out for Now Times. It's not that consistent anymore to be able to double combo every turn.
Alright, so what is going to be the play here? Top check 3 Brainstorm, still not finding any climax. Looks like it's going to be a drop search, maybe into another Brainstorm for another chance? I feel like you don't really have much other choice here. You kind of have to... You need the climax. You need to get the climax. Okay, so here's the issue here. So there's 5 cards left in deck, even though we are grabbing another Brainstorm. But the problem is that there's 5 cards left in deck, right?
Yeah, so if you hit a Brainstorm, it needs to be on exactly the bottom card, or in your next refresh, basically.
And then also drawing the comeback climax here wouldn't work.
And now he finds the comeback climax there.
Yeah, but this doesn't work because the deck refreshes.
Yeah, so you don't have it in graveyard in your waiting room anymore. So you need some other way to get it in your waiting room again?
You have to pray for the mill 3 off of the climax swap to mill a treasure climax.
Yeah, this is kind of the worst case scenario, because the other scenario would have been either the gold bar or the treasure climax is on the bottom, or you hit 2 on your Brainstorm and get to check through your next deck as well. But in this case, you don't get either.
I will say, though, that like getting a climax at all is a start.
Yeah.
So, because there is also the possibility where you hit 2 off of the Brainstorm and then just find 0 climax, right?
And another climax heading into the clock through refresh damage. This doesn't seem too great for Mr. Two Sides.
So we have Brainstorm Rest 2 here on the shell tier. What are we digging for this time? Looks like we're just going with the shell tier level 1 combo.
Oh, this is definitely not where you want to be as Mr. Two Sides. Or is it just going to be another target for... Oh, right, we have the climax swap, of course.
Oh, wait, there was... there was a treasure climax hit off of the...
Yeah, this is perfect.
And if that's the case, I'm curious why we chose to go for the shell tier level 1 here as the search off the Brainstorm.
Yeah, we could have prepared another level 3 Eins to play on the next turn, maybe. But we do get to blow up the entire board, so... In this position, I would say... I would still favor Now Time's position over here.
Especially with Mr. Two Sides at 3/3 already.
Turns out the finishing combo on level 2 was a very good play for for now times.
Oh, Mr. Two Sides does not
no.
want to see more climaxes here. You need those to cancel with on the next turn. You need those.
Already 4 climaxes out for Mr. Two Sides. At least we don't see another climax there.
Yeah, and one thing that Now Times doesn't have to worry about on the next turn. Oh my! I mean, like, it's another treasure, but like, at what cost?
Yeah, and that blind stock might also be another climax. So it's like he's 5 climaxes out right now.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that Now Times doesn't have to worry about at this point is the rest counter from the side of Nazarick, because we only have a. Oh, sorry, that's not. Oh, wait, no, that's level. That's level. My bad. Yeah. So the thing is that the rest counter from the side of Nazarick costs 5 stock, and we only see 4 stock here on the side of Nazarick. So you don't even have to worry about that. You can just kind of go with whatever plays you want and not have to worry about your opponent potentially having that defensive option against you to rest one of your attackers and lower your damage output.
Yeah, but Now Times is still at level 2, so there's no real way, I think, to push a lot of damage in this position, except for like finding a lot of triggers and pushing with soul damage.
That's a soul.
That is a soul. We got to shuffle triggers back as well. So that does kind of go in the direction of our win con over here. We might be able to standby out one of the 3-2 Ichikas that would help us make more soul if we trigger more standbys, or we standby something out that well.
Okay, so I see in Now Time's hand does he have blue? Yeah, he has a brainstorming clock. I double check if he had blue or not. There's a brainstorm in the third clock. Yeah,
it's always so funny when you have to play the counters.
Yeah. So we saw the last card in the hand was a 3-2 early play, Nino, that it can be early played if your opponent has a level 3 character on board, which we do have. We have the level 3 Eins, but maybe because of the stock expenditure from the previous turn, maybe not enough stock to actually put it into play. That would be my guess.
Does seem like he's going for the 1-1 Nino as standby target, just to be able to check some more triggers, just to get more soul triggers in. Hitting for 2. Only 1 damage left needed to kill.
But what if this is where the soul went? I think this is where the soul was placed off of the shuffleback 2. Yeah, so this is a 2.
This is for 2.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's still the game. Now Times manages to clutch it out with just vanilla swings with extra soul.
And no, never look at the next card. It's always the next card. All right, so that is going to be a victory here for Now Times with quintessential quintuplets. Was able to secure the victory. Unlike, unfortunately, in our first round, we were not able to see the victory with the quintessential quintuplets. These two decks, both very similar. Something that I was thinking players might be trying out coming into this tournament was there's kind of a new English-only build floating around because you can't really build the same way due to Japanese restrictions.
For quints?
Yeah, for quints. So there is a 3-2... Are you familiar with the 3-2 from set 3 that has a stand itself combo? It has a new support card.
No.
It has a new support card from the premium booster that is a 2-1 level assist that gives all copies of that 3-2 the effect, when this card's damage is cancelled, you can pay 2, discard 2 to burn 4. Yeah. And it doesn't require any climax. And so what we've actually seen is some players have been adapting, running this set 2 level 3 combo, but also running that pair of level 3 and level 2 just as options to buff the board more, as the 3-2 itself has a global 15 to all other characters' ability, and then also just opens you up to more finisher options that don't require your climax.
Right.
So I think it's been a very interesting adaptation that we haven't actually seen in either of these two quintessential quintuplets decks. So I'm curious to see if other people are playing it throughout the day.
Yeah, maybe in one of the next rounds we will see it come into play.
Did you have any final thoughts about this particular game?
Yeah, I think it was very interesting that he ended up going for the combo turn
at level 2, right?
Level 2. Especially because his board was going to get blown up anyway, so like it felt like a little bit of an all-in, but it definitely did get rewarded there.
Yeah, and then we saw some unfortunate triggers there from Nazarick at the very end, like literally the last things you want to see at that point in the game.
Yeah, you've been looking for climaxes, but not in that way.
Yeah, spent so much time looking for the climax, And then it's like, all right, I found my climax. Wait, no, stop.
Nope.
No, I don't need these ones too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But he did manage to find his climax that he wanted, that he was digging for.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's
imagine
something.
imagine if he didn't, and Now Times was just able to get an entirely new turn with all of those 3-2s left over from the previous one.
Yeah, that would have been huge for Now Times. But anyway, he managed to close it out with this without his board. So
Okay,
I think we're heading over to a small break.
and we will have our winner, Now Times, for a quick interview, and we will see you back in just a sec.
Yep.
Bye.
See you then.